Good afternoon. I am Chief Robert J. Conti III of the Metropolitan Police Department. And on behalf of the Metropolitan Police Department and our partners that accompany me today, we would like to thank you for joining us on the grounds of our MPD Police Training Academy. This site serves as the location of our latest partnership, one that I am optimistic will help decrease violent crime in the district. It is no secret that MPD works closely with our local and federal partners on a number of matters. But one issue that is at the top of the list is our collective efforts to combat crimes, particularly ones of violence that involve the use of illegal firearms. And just like the COVID-19 pandemic, gun violence that plagues communities across our country has been designated as a public health crisis requiring all stakeholders to play an integral role. It was earlier this year that Mayor Bowser announced a new whole-of-government approach to combating the issue and established the Gun Violence Emergency Operations Center with the goal of attacking the root causes before crime occurs. And just last month, President Biden and his administration introduced a comprehensive plan to reduce violence to include addressing the flow of firearms into communities and ensuring that we keep these guns out of the wrong hands. I'd like to emphasize that MPD's efforts in collaboration with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is to focus our resources on reducing violent gun crimes in the District of Columbia. It is also a reason I am heavily invested in the intelligence-led policing, an approach that makes it safer for our officers, but also targets individuals that we know will pull a trigger. We know through past evidence collection and analysis that 55% of shell casings recovered from crime scenes in the district link back to other shootings, and that 25% of the guns recovered in D.C. link back to previous shootings. Just for reference, the District of Columbia so far this year, the Metropolitan Police Department has recovered over 1,100 illegal firearms. And with respect to that 25% of the firearms we know have been fired, we know our shell casings have been recovered on the scene, the District of Columbia averages the numbers are the highest as we look at other cities around our country. By comparison, for example, like in Chicago, 14% of the firearms that are recovered they can tie back to shell casings from scenes. In the District of Columbia, 25% of the firearms that we recovered, we can say that these firearms certainly link back to a scene. So that's a very high average, but it also demonstrates that we're getting the right guns out of the wrong hands. With this understanding, I believe we can make significant strides in decreasing violence by identifying these offenders and getting them out of our neighborhoods. The reason we have invited you here today is to announce the creation of the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network Investigations Unit. The NIBIN Investigations Unit, in partnership with the ATF and the United States Attorney's Office in D.C., is an intelligence-led group who supports the investigation and prosecution of non-fatal shootings, homicides, and violent gun offenders in the District of Columbia. The Metropolitan Police Department has committed a team of MPD detectives and intel analysts to this team that will help us operate more cohesively to identify potential links to crime scenes, firearms, and shooters, but also combat retaliatory acts. The NIBIN technology analyzes ballistic evidence from shooting scenes and recovered firearms and allows for law enforcement to research, identify, and cross-reference data in a nationwide network maintained by the ATF. This information helps deploy resources across our investigations and operations in a more targeted fashion. While this is just one of our approaches to address violent crime in the district, I am optimistic that this unit will have a positive impact on driving down violence, helping us remove the right guns out of the wrong hands, and progressing towards keeping the violent offenders off of our streets and keeping our communities safe. Before we take a tour of the NIBIN Mobile Command Center, I would like to introduce Charlie Patterson, the special agent in charge of the ATF's Washington Field Division, to provide specifics on the ATF's role and detail the NIBIN technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, I am Charlie Patterson, the Special Agent in charge of the ATF Washington Field Division. Today, we are proud to stand with our partners to announce this new investigative initiative, NIBIN Investigations Unit. Together with MPD and the U.S. Attorney's Office, we will utilize the cutting-edge technology to identify and arrest those who are pulling the trigger in our community. The investigative leads developed from NIBIN here in the district are abundant. With more than 2,000 leads over the last 2 years, focused coordination and follow-up are essential to ensuring shooters will be identified and arrested before they can reoffend. The intelligence gleaned from this technology shows us a small group of individuals are responsible for most of the shootings here in the district. In one case, for example, a firearm possessed by an individual was linked to 6 separate shootings in the district, to include multiple shootings with victims who were struck by gunfire. Make no mistake, this type of conduct is unacceptable. This new partnership will bring special focus and sense of urgency to these investigations and offenders. ATF will be bringing all of our intelligence resources to bear as often these linked shooting events span not only across MPD police districts but across the region. Shootings in the district have linked to firearm recoveries and shootings as far away as Richmond, Virginia. Additionally, we prioritize our firearms trafficking investigations to focus on individuals who are trafficking firearms into the district that are recovered by MPD and linked to violent crimes. Solving violent crime is a priority for everyone here today. We look forward to this partnership and not only providing justice for victims, but preventing someone from being the next victim by removing shooters from our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. At this time, we can take any questions you may have before we tour.
Chief Tom Fitzgerald from Channel 5. You had expressed some frustration, I think, the other day about having to deal with offenders who you've put away, who you've arrested, but get released back out on the street and you got to deal with them again. Will part of this effort be along with the U.S. Attorney's Office to make sure that the people who need to be behind bars stay behind bars?
I think it goes beyond that. The U.S. Attorney's Office certainly has a role in that. I think we have to look at the system, the entire system that we have in play. We have to ask ourselves, hey, why is it that when a person commits certain crimes in Virginia, those persons are, held accountable, and it's a while before you see them again? Why is the District of Columbia, why should we be any different? Why should our communities have to see repeat violent offenders back out in community? For whatever the reason is, I think it's an opportunity for us to really look at the entire system. What I'm hopeful that this initiative will bring at the end of the day, it will show the linkages that we see. And we've known and we've said for many, many years that the crimes in the District of Columbia are committed by a very small amount of people. Well, this technology, this helps us to really link in on those individuals when we see firearms used in this neighborhood, and really kind of better understanding. We want these detectives, these ATF agents, to work very hard to really identify what those links are, identify the sources of how these firearms have been trafficked into the District of Columbia, and really hold people accountable. Thank you for the question. Darcy.
Nationals Park shooting or the shooting involving Naya from over the weekend?
So we can talk about the Nationals Park shooting. Yesterday, I think we did a press conference yesterday, and again, I got to continue to thank the community for the tips that are coming in. I want to thank our patrol officers. Yesterday, we had some very alert patrol officers. We were able to recover that vehicle, that Toyota Corolla, the vehicle that we talked about, the vehicle that we released in the image as being involved, the vehicle as being the vehicle occupied by the shooters. That vehicle was recovered yesterday on Water Street over in the 2nd District up in Northwest. So that vehicle is being forensically analyzed, and now our investigation continues.
Can you say if it was any evidence gotten out of that? Was it a stolen car or a carjacked car?
It was not a carjacked vehicle. The vehicle was in possession of a person. We have interviewed that person. We have been in contact with the owner of the vehicle, and what we have learned as far as that vehicle was loaned to someone, and that vehicle was not returned to the person who it was loaned to.
Was that the same with in Naya's case, where the vehicle that was burned, were you able to make contact with that owner as well?
We're still working that angle of the investigation.
questions for Zach Patterson, please.
First of all, Mike from Channel 9,
Yes.
good to
Hey,
meet
Mike.
you for the first time. You know, 2
Absolutely.
years ago, I had the opportunity to interview your predecessor, Sean Benedict, now with the department.
Right.
So we were talking about how there was going to be a new partnership between ATF and MPD with greater access to NIBIN. So, Zach Patterson, can you illustrate how this is different? Is this sort of the same movie from 2 years ago? I don't mean to put it that way, but is it the creation of dedicated detectives to interface with NIBIN that's different? What is different this time around as opposed to what we were talking about 2 years ago?
No, that's a great question, and one that we really need to make sure that we point out that this is quite different from prior initiatives because we physically have detectives, analysts, intel research specialists embedded with our group in our location, all working on this collectively together in real time. We all know
So was
that
that not the case before? Were
it
they
was-
like in Alabama or?
yeah, it was not the case before in terms of having investigative resources actually embedded with our group. Now, with respect to the ballistics evidence and how that gets correlated, the NIBIN National Correlation Center is in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, for example, the evidence that you'll be touring today and seeing, some of the correlations will be conducted by our folks in Alabama to confirm whether or not this evidence is actually correlated with the shootings as we think they are, which is a little bit different. But in terms of the difference in what we're doing investigatively, we have a team together, a unit together working in real time to address these shootings.
So to just be clear, in 2019, that was not the case. Like if MPD needed the full resources of ATF, would those resources come from Alabama to the district? Just help me out here to illustrate.
No,
the difference.
those investigative resources will actually be embedded with our office.
Right, but
so
in
they're
2019, they were
they were not.
They were not. Okay.
They were not.
And just one more question, if I could. So in your remarks, you said that over the past 2 years, you've had 2,000 leads that NIBIN has developed. Do you have any metrics as to the percent of cases closed out of those 2,000 leads?
I can get that information for you in terms of what that looks like. Prosecutions, not prosecutions, and closed cases versus active investigations.
Do you happen to have a ballpark that you know off the top of your head?
I wouldn't want to disclose a ballpark right now. I just don't have that in front of me.
Okay, Zach Patterson, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely.
All right, Chief. This is Nick Minock with 7 News. Thanks for your time this afternoon. I want to get your thoughts. Do you think MPD is understaffed, and do you think the department has a morale problem among your officers?
I think I do think that the Metropolitan Police Department is understaffed right now. I mean, last year this time we were at 3,800 officers. This year we're at 3,584 officers. I mean, we're almost 300 officers less than where we were this time last year. So that certainly is a concern. I don't think that's anything new. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about, how attrition is, or how the separation of members from our agency, either through retirement or members resigning from the agency, that has been an issue for a while. With respect to morale, I'm certainly sure that there are some individuals whose morale is impacted by having to work longer than normal hours, perhaps not being able to spend as much time in community as they would like because they got to go to the next call. I'm certainly sure that impacts morale, but there are police officers that I encounter each and every day that are out here, just excited to be. I was with a group of officers earlier today that were just excited to be at work, engaging in community, dealing with the communities. We have another group that we'll be unveiling tomorrow, our community-focused patrol groups, 24 mountain bike and scooter officers who will be out there engaging community. And they're excited about the work to be done in community. So I think in an agency this large, certainly you can find some individuals who may be dissatisfied about the way things are. Certainly we have those, but I believe the majority of the officers here are proud to serve this city, and they go out every day and they do it faithfully.
So you said MPD is understaffed, and what's that magic number? How many officers would you like to see out patrolling the streets? What's your message to the City Council of D.C.?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when we talk about the magic number has evaded us for years, right? It's been 4,000, it's been 3,800. If we're below 3,700, then that's an issue. I think that every year, we need to make sure that the department is properly staffed. At the very minimum right now, we should be in the posture where we were this time last year. I do not think that we should be making drastic changes and things while not having the infrastructure in place to really support some of the changes that that are on the horizon for our city. It's very important that we have police officers out here that are doing their job. But I haven't been to one community yet in my 7 months as chief of police here. I haven't been not to one community that says, hey, yeah, chief, yeah, just take my officers. We don't need them. You can send them over, over there. I have not been to that community yet. And if you happen to encounter folks in that community, please, I'll be more than happy to go out and visit with them. But I have not encountered that community yet. Yes.
Just a brief news of the day, Chief, off topic. It's being widely reported that somebody you probably know, Tom Manger, is being considered as the next chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. You've obviously been intimately involved in these hearings that have gone over the past week. Everybody knows Tom Manger in this region. Wonder if you had thoughts on Tom Manger assuming duties as possibly the next police chief of the Capitol Police.
Yeah, I think Tom is an excellent choice. He's familiar with the area. He's been chief of police of 2 major city police departments, Fairfax County and Montgomery County. His reputation is impeccable, and I think that if he is the one who has been chosen for this job, I think he'll do a great job. I certainly know his work in those two places, but also his work with the Major City Chiefs Association, which I also am a member of. Tom has just done an incredible amount of work for law enforcement, and if he is the guy, I look forward to working with him.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep, absolutely. You got one more question, and then we're done.
Okay.
Yep.
Where's Mayor Bowser? Because we had a weekend of violence, and we have not heard from her on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I know she put out a statement on Sunday or Monday, but where is she? I thank you for your time answering our questions, but where is the mayor?
Well, sir, I would push back on that a little bit. I know I spent quite a bit on Saturday with Mayor Bowser. With respect, I don't know if you were at the press conference, but I was there, and certainly she spoke very passionately about the issues that we're facing with respect to gun violence. She talked very passionately about what we are expecting from the community, as well as what we want to see from the police department. One of the things that was mentioned to her was the liquor store across the street from where the shooting occurred. There were complaints from residents. We wanted to see that shut down. That happened. The mayor has been intimately involved in what's been going on since that day and even before then. I spoke with the mayor early on. I can't account for where she is every second of the day, but I can tell you that she's tuned in, and there's nothing that I'm talking about here today that the mayor's not aware of.
But
so thank you for that question.
She hasn't answered questions since the Nats Park.
Yes, this fellow here.
Chief.
Yes, sir.
On the shooting, the fatal shooting of the little girl.
Yes.
What about the condition of the mom and the other adults? And you were pleading yesterday for information.
Yes.
So how helpful in both these shootings have you determined whether the individuals, the grown-ups, were targeted, and have you been able to achieve any success in getting some information there?
So information continues to come in. Like I mentioned, both vehicles have been recovered, which is huge for us. We have received some additional information, which is helping to progress our investigation. I can't speak specifically to a motive right now. Obviously, we're still in the very early stages, and I know, people sometimes think that these things are resolved in 24 hours, but there are a lot of investigative hours that really kind of go into making sure that we understand why what happened. I mean, we can get to all of the specifics later on, but right now, what I'd like for the community to focus on is bringing Naya's killer to justice. Justice for Naya. That's what we're focused on right now, bringing her killer to justice. In addition to that, we had the shooting, that this gentleman over here just referenced with respect to the Nats Stadium. I'm happy to report that none of those individuals who were injured in that case suffered serious injuries. Obviously, gunshots, wounds in themselves are serious, but they were not fatal in nature. All those individuals are recovering from the injuries and released from hospitals. But right now, what I want the community to really focus on is making sure that we find the individuals responsible for this by continuing to call in that information. The community has been tremendously helpful in calling in tips. Keep that information coming. We need it. Thank you so much. We can now go and turn to the tour.
Thank you.